Hey guys, it's M4J here and welcome back to Global Ventures here on Planet Coaster. My phone decides to ping at just the worst times, doesn't it? Welcome to something that isn't around the world in 80 days. I thought I'd take a little bit of a break from that project, and I've been complaining in the past about suffering from a little bit of burnout with that. And I thought I'd go and practice my dark ride building skills somewhere else, just while I sort of take stock, learn some more tricks, little things like that. And this was a little experiment that I've been wanting to do for a while now, to do with Bandito, Escape the West. So I thought I'd come over here and just play around with this a little bit, and see if I can pick up some skills that I can then utilise elsewhere in the park, like for example around the world in 80 days. So this is the beginning of the ride, which I really wasn't happy with before. I wasn't happy with the way the launch track kind of had to undulate around the opening act of the ride. I also didn't like the fact that it's not really dark. It's supposed to take place in the dark and it just doesn't. So I thought I'd come over here and actually fix it. We have this big open space, kind of where the queue line used to join up with the main pathway when it was a cul-de-sac. Because it's now a through route, the entrance will be moving. In fact, I think you've seen me move the entrance in this video. And yeah, it looks a lot nicer now. It's still not perfect. There's still some aspects of it that I wish I could change, but I'm a lot happier with the final result now than I was before. So I see that as being a good thing. This little section here, it's kind of the box that I'll be working in for most of this project, and I really like the way that this ride has turned out now. If you watch POVs of Saw the Ride, or if you've been lucky enough or unlucky enough, depending on your viewpoint, to go on the ride, you'll know that there's kind of a hidden drop at the start. So you go around the first two corners, spoiler alert by the way, for those of you that haven't written it, spoiler alert, you go around the first couple of corners, you see Billy the Doll, and then there's the hidden drop. And I kind of wanted to incorporate that. It's not very hidden in this respect though, it's quite obvious that there's a drop here, but it's still, there's enough there to catch you by surprise, and I think it does a pretty decent job. And it drops you down into the basement of the building here, which is where this happens. So currently, I'm trying to build a sort of inline twist / heartline roll that travels under the track. But in a minute, you'll see me completely give up on this idea and build it on top of the track instead. And I actually prefer it on top of the track. It's not the best roll in the world, and I think I can go back and improve it. I've already tried to improve it a couple of times. Off camera. The smoothing tool really doesn't help, because eventually the smoothing tool just decides, oh, you don't want to invert your riders here, you just want to do some weird S-shape, double banked kind of thing. That's not really what I was going for at all. So you can only use the smoothing tool so much in that situation before it becomes obsolete. So this is me rebuilding the track here to try and actually make it drop right the way down to the bottom. It is quite a tall drop. It's about 60 feet, I think, which is, I mean, it doesn't sound very tall, but trust me, that is quite tall. I'm just looking to see if I can see the numbers, so I can tell you roughly how tall it is. So it drops down to, what's that, -18? Yeah, -18, and it starts off at, oh, it's nowhere near as tall as I thought. It's about 35 feet, which is half, basically, of what I thought it was. But it's still very tall, don't get me wrong, it's still quite tall. 35-foot drop in what in real life would be absolute darkness is quite something. On here though, I mean, that's peanuts. I've had a look at the excitement stats for this ride, and they get really excited in really weird places and get really bored in other weird places. So as for example, this block break section that I've put here, I actually replaced this at some point with an LSM holding section, and they get excited whilst they're stopped on that holding section, but they don't get excited in the build up to that holding section, nor do they get excited when they're launched out of that holding section. So I don't really know what's going on there. It's a little strange, but there we go. Right, so this is the new track configuration. There is clearance. It doesn't look like it, but trust me, there is clearance. So you drop down from the station underneath the roll, which in real life you wouldn't be able to see. Imagine that this bit takes place in complete and utter darkness. So you drop down underneath. You then do the bank overbank turn, which goes right up against the wall where the launch is the other side of. and then after that you go into the roll. Now I'm not committed too much to this because there's another little section that I haven't built yet. And this actually helps a lot with the timing of the ride. So you used to have to sit and wait on the holding magnet before the launch, whilst the train in front completed the first section of the course. That is now no longer the case for two reasons. One, I've amended the wait time at the station, so the train now has to wait for, I think it's 20 seconds minimum dispatch time, which I used to think was quite a long time to sit there waiting, but I suppose in test mode trains do just sit and wait. When trains are loading in real life, that's actually quite a short amount of time. I was watching a video recently about Big Thunder Mountain, particularly the ones in Florida and California, and it's crazy how they operate. The fact that a train has to dispatch every 42 seconds, otherwise the ride effectively shuts down, goes into an e-stop. That is crazy. It's the kind of jeopardy of it, I suppose. Imagine working that ride and you know you have to get a train out every 42 seconds, otherwise you're putting on your safety gear and going out to manually reset the ride. That is just, as I said, it's crazy to think about. Right, this is the new roll. So the way the track works now is drop, overbank turn, helix, which I think would build up quite a lot of G-forces in real life. I haven't built it very well on here, that's why it's not particularly great. And then you go up through the roll and into the brakes. I think this worked quite well. I think it's a nice start to the ride. I think it kind of captures the craziness that's about to happen to you during this ride. I like it. I do like it. The shape of the roll itself, I'm not a huge fan of. Although the trick that I do here does actually work. What you do is you delete a couple of sections and then use the autocomplete feature in order to make it connect. And it does make it a lot smoother. You can already see there the roll is quite smooth. It's a really weird... In fact, that one isn't weird. That does actually look alright. The final version, I might have to go back and rebuild it again, because the final version, it kind of twists very suddenly. And I'm not sure that the animation really matches the shape of the track. In real life, I think it's a good shaped roll. But here, I'm not entirely convinced. But this little section that I'm building here, it actually becomes the catalyst for a major rebuild of quite a lot of the track, which I think again is a good thing. I think Bandito itself, I kind of left it for a long time where I was happy with it, but I wasn't satisfied with it, if that makes sense. So I'm kind of glad that I was given this opportunity to go and rework parts of the ride. I've also replaced some of the cookie cutter elements with hand-built ones, which may or may not be a good thing. The one I really like is the 0G roll. So you go through the launch, you go up into the banana roll, you go into the massive Immelman, and then it used to go up into a game-made 0G roll. But I wasn't a massive fan of that, so I have now changed that. So once you complete the Immelman, you now go into a new hand-built, I guess it's still a 0G roll, but I would refer to it more as being like a Heartline roll, and I really like it. I really like it. You go through it fast, 50 miles an hour you go through it. It's quite low, it's quite flat, and it gets very, very close to the new terrain, which you'll see in a second. And I think it works perfectly with again, the craziness of the ride. There's that little snap that I was talking about in the 0G. Or what would you call this? It's not really a Heartline roll. Barrel roll, maybe? I don't think it rotates around the Heartline, which is why I'm reluctant to call it that. You'll see me do a little... Actually, you won't see me do a little trick there, because I don't do it on camera. But I do a little trick there. I remove the block brake after the station. Oh yeah, that's when the smoothing tool decides you don't want to invert your riders anymore. You just want to do some weird bank test bend thing. Yeah, I removed the block brake from the end of the station there, and the reason I do that is actually to build momentum, because the block brake here holds you at 5 miles an hour until you're halfway down the drop, and you don't really carry, you do make it to the first block section afterwards, but you don't really carry that much momentum. And I actually added 5 miles an hour to that section just by removing that block brake. So now you come out of the station, you go over the drive tyres, there's a little bit of flat track, and then you just drop. and it works a lot better. It helps again with the pacing of the ride. Basically, a train is dispatched from the station just as one is launched, and by the time the station train gets to the launch, the one in front has cleared the block in front. So it actually works out really, really well. This is the rebuild coming up here. You see, I'm messing around with the terrain here, and I realise that it pokes a hole through. And the reason I can't extend the terrain a little bit further is because of this weird dive drop that we've got going on here. So I decided to move this. Now, originally I tried to just move the existing element, but as you'll see, it creates some very weird shaped track. So I decided to give up and start again from scratch. And again, it makes it a lot better. The element itself becomes a lot better. And it's all hand built, which I'm a big fan of. So right here you can see I'm starting again, trying to make this work. That one's too big. This one here I think becomes just about right. It is quite tight. It's a really tight inversion, but I like that about this. I like the fact that it's a tight inversion. It's not just plain and simple. I kind of like the build up into it as well. I think that looks really cool. Like the new twist. I saw a picture recently of the Incredible Hulk at Universal Studios Islands of Adventure, and the Cobra roll on the Incredible Hulk, when viewed from the ground, looks very, very intimidating. But when you look at it from above, it actually looks quite derpy, the way that the corkscrews lead into the half loops, and that's kind of what makes me feel a little bit better about some of the elements here. That, you know, in real life they still can look quite, not messy, but you know what I mean, like not uniform. And that for me was a big deal, to actually realise that and realise that, you know, my designs aren't that bad at all, actually, when you think about it. And this 0G roll is one of those areas that I was kind of referring to there, because this roll looks, on the surface, it looks a little bit duh. But when you actually ride it, you fly through it so quickly, you don't really know what's happened. You see here, it's quite low to the ground compared to the old one. The old one rose up quite a lot and did its thing. This one is quite low to the ground. And before you know it, you're through the roll, you're through the building, and you're through that little bunny hop there as well. This is just me using autocomplete to smooth it out a little bit more, and again using the smooth tool makes it do that, so I can't smooth it. I lower it down a little bit more as well, and yeah, this is me riding it here, just so you can see. So that's the first section done. Go through the block, the vault will be in front of you there, and you stop here on the launch, and boom. Now the launch itself has also been reshaped slightly, but that roll there, I really, really like it. Most 0G rolls, you do rise up into them. So I actually have one where it's just quite low and flat. I was wondering if I could nick the record for the fastest inversion, but I think that is something like 80 miles an hour. Whereas this one, as I said earlier, you only take it at 50. So that one might elude us. But we still have the inversion record of 60. Not 60. 16. And I think that's enough for a ride like this. It's interesting that Gerstlauer would be holding the records for well, the previous 2 records for inversions. I think that's quite interesting. Maybe I'm on my own on that one. This is me rebuilding this little element again. I wanted it to fit. Originally I was going to build this element, then build the 0G and make the 0G fit to this element. But after I built the 0G, I was so happy with it, I didn't want to change it again. So I decided this is the one that will have to change. And again, I'm quite happy with the result. It fits. That's the thing I like about it. It just fits. It fits with the wackiness of this ride. Everything about this ride is unconventional. And I think that's a really cool thing. The fact that, you know, there's nothing really that's uniform about it. There's nothing really that's generic about it. Everything is wacky. Everything is crazy. All the elements, like there's no 2 elements that are the same. It's just brilliant. I really love it. I think this ride would be an absolute blast to actually go on and experience firsthand. For this exact reason, like even that there's 2 dive drops in a row here, and they're both completely different. One is kind of like a slow, you roll up into it and then drop. The other one is a really slow build up in a different way. So hang on, let me explain that because that makes it sound the same. So the first one here, it's got what's known as hang time, which is you twist so slowly into the actual roll. This is me just building a little land bridge over here to add some more flavour, and it just makes that little bit of head chopper effect with that roll. And then I go down here and clear it up some more. But yeah, so the first one has a really slow build up which creates hang time. So you travel slowly into the roll itself, whereas the second one, it's the transition that's slow rather than the speed. So pretty much as soon as you hit the bottom of the first roll, you're already starting to twist to go into the second one. And that creates, you know, some weird sideways airtime, which you only really get on RMCs. You're starting to get it on Intamin designs now, like Pantheon at Busch Gardens has a little bit of a Stengel turn, I believe it's called. In fact, the Stengel dive's been around for a while now, but it's only really starting to find fashion again. But I do like that idea of every element be different. There's only one vertical loop on here. I don't really like coasters that have more than one vertical loop, which again sounds weird, but they're so generic, vertical loops. You kind of want to have something a little bit different. Colossus at Thorpe Park is a really good example of why you don't want the same thing over and over again, because it has 4 heartline rolls in a row, and then it has a 5th one a little bit after. And I like John Wardley, don't get me wrong. I think he's an absolute genius. He doesn't get the recognition he deserves at times. But maybe he could have added an extra, because he was the one who added the final heartline roll to create the 10th inversion. I think it was already just an Intamin off-the-shelf design before he got involved. Maybe he could have added something a little different there, or maybe like a dive drop or something instead of the... I don't know. I actually don't know right now. But I know that Intamin have mixed up the design a little bit since then. But then again, Wardley might have had an input on that. Actually, I urge you guys to go check that out if you haven't. Read about John Wardley and the rides he was involved with. Because there's some... I didn't know, for example, that he helped design Dragon Khan at Portaventura. I didn't even know he was involved with Portaventura. He designed Stampeder as well, which I didn't know about. I knew he was involved a lot in the UK, and I knew that he had a little bit of an input to some rides in the US. But I had no idea quite the scale that he was working at. And it's impressive. Very impressive CV. Very, very impressive CV. Right, with the new terrain, we have this little new section here. So this is where the ride gets blasted out. There will be lots of special effects. The doors will fly open, a la Test Track. But yeah, I'm trying to find the words. I'm really happy with this new layout. I wasn't unhappy necessarily with the old one, but this one, it feels a lot more like the original idea that I had. And the way that it integrates now with the building, I haven't had to do much editing with the building, which has also been awesome. I could keep a lot of it in situ, and in fact, I've rationalised the building in many ways, taken bits out that I didn't need anymore, which I think is awesome. That's been a big help. And you can see here I'm just adding this back wall, and I really like the way that the launch itself is quite narrow. So there's just enough clearance, there's just enough of an envelope that it won't be a health hazard or anything. But at the same time, I really like how enclosed and claustrophobic it would feel, particularly as you gain speed and you start bumping up and down as well, because it creates that feeling of, you know, you're out of control, what's going to happen. And then suddenly there's this pair of doors in front of you that open at just about the right time, and you go flying through. You reach a top speed of 77 miles an hour on this ride, which is just at the bottom of, as you finish the launch, you drop down into a little gully, and that's when you hit the top speed. So the launch itself takes you up to, I think it's 71, and then you get the extra speed boost just at the end as you drop down. Now the queue line is going to be rebuilt slightly. The space that I now have at the back, there's me accidentally digging down into the tunnel underneath the ride, which wasn't great, and I'm just clearing out some spotlights here that I was using while I was building the track. This is the darkest section of the ride, and I'm really happy with this still. I think this looks awesome, and you'll see the ride through in a minute and how cool it looks there as well. And then just a little bit more terrain editing. I've built the pathway over this finale section of the ride now as well. It needs some scenery to make it look a little bit nicer, but I do like the way that it integrates with the ride. I've built a little path that goes underneath the stool dive there as well, to connect it all up. And yeah, I just think, again, I'm really happy with this ride now. I'm really happy with it. I need to add some more scenery. The dark section where the first Heartline roll is, I'm not going to add anything there because it's meant to take place in the dark. But where the launch is, I'm going to add some more stuff there. I'm going to add the bank vault in, of course, because that's the whole point of the ride. There's supposed to be a bank vault that we're robbing. And other little bits of rock work around the back section here as well. And I like the fact that the bank building now sticks out of the mountain, because it kind of feels, you know, if you're going to put a secure vault somewhere, why not bury it underground? That kind of makes sense when you think about it. And just build the bank coming out of the hill structure, the mountain structure. Right, you can see it's a lot darker in here now. It's still not perfect. I need to bury it a little bit more, but it's a lot darker than it was. The lighting from underneath actually adds quite a nice effect as well. And I'm quite happy with this, I think. As I said, very happy with this. It works really well. And I like the fact that when you launch there as well, you go right up near the ceiling. Again, it's a really nice head chopper effect. This ride is full of really nice head chopper effects. I think it looks really cool. A little bit of scenery placement here as well. And yeah, we're done. So I'm going to stop talking now. I'm going to let the music take over. There is going to be a POV of the ride at the end. Don't forget the door animation hasn't been done yet, so please don't comment saying we smash into the door, because I'm aware of that. But yeah, let me know your thoughts down below. I'm going to try and post this on as many different places as possible, like Reddit, for example, and maybe even the Discord if I'm allowed. I haven't actually checked that. I'm probably not allowed, to be fair, which is fine. You know, certain Discords have that rule. That's no problem. But do let me know your thoughts down below. Around the World in 80 Days isn't over. I will be going back to it, but I wanted to practice here with the Wild West theme again, because one of the rooms in Around the World in 80 Days is going to be Wild West themed, so I wanted to kind of remind myself what that looks like. Oh yes, I had a little extra terrain bridge here as well, just to split the ride up a little bit more, so you can't see all of the ride from any one place, which adds to that little bit of mystique. Anyway, quick outro. Thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to hit the like button if you enjoyed the video, and of course if you're enjoying the series, drop some comments down below with ideas for future episodes. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, be sure to hit the subscribe button. If you have already subscribed to the channel, thank you guys for your continued support. Enjoy the ride through, and until next time, I will see you soon.